So, the UCAT. It's hard, I won't lie. I actually did the UCAT back in 2016, so 4 years ago, and it was the year they were trialling the decision-making section, so my total score was actually made from 3 sections, not 4. I got a score of Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Raina on the Cusp. My name is Raina and today I'm sharing my top 10 UCAT tips. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, it really helps me out. And comment down below to let me know which part of the UCAT you're finding the hardest and why. So, very quickly, what is the UCAT? The UCAT is a 2-hour online computer-based exam that most medical and dental schools in the UK use as part of their entry requirements. It has 5 sections with a different number of questions and a different amount of time to complete those questions. It tests your mathematical skills in the quantitative reasoning section, your comprehension skills in the verbal reasoning section, your ability to recognise patterns in the abstract reasoning section, your ability to make sound decisions and judgments in the decision-making section, and finally your ability to process real-world situations in the situational judgment section. Also, each section is scored between 300 to 900, with 900 being the best and 300 being the worst. And the situational judgment test is banded from bands 1 to 4, so band 1 being the highest and band 4 being the lowest. So why is the UCAT important? Different medical and dental schools in the UK use the UCAT in a different way, so they may place a different weighting towards UCAT as part of their entry requirements. What that means is, for some schools, the UCAT may make up a greater proportion of your application and other schools may not put as much of an emphasis on it. Therefore, for some schools, your UCAT score might have to reach a certain threshold for it to be considered for the entry requirements. And so depending on what medical or dental school you want to go for, you might have to aim for a certain score or range of scores. Really, you just want to be doing the best that you can in the UCAT regardless of if the universities use it more strongly or they don't. So aim to get as high of a score as you can to increase your chances of getting that interview offer. So let's get on to my tips. So the first thing I want to talk about is, where do you actually start with the UCAT? It's really important to sit down and have a look at what the exam is, what the sections are, get familiar with the format of the exam, and then see if there's anything that you think you would be naturally good at. Are there any sections that you think you're sort of more drawn to? Are there any sections that you think you'll have to work more at? For example, I've always been fairly good at maths. I did it for A-level, so I sort of knew that the quantitative reasoning section could be my strongest, so therefore I decided to dedicate more of my time towards verbal reasoning and abstract reasoning. Me and abstract reasoning did not get on. Then, because the UCAT is an exam where theoretically you get better as you progress with practice, I would recommend starting with the easier questions when you sit down to do them, and sort of building your confidence and building your way up to the harder questions. There's sort of no point going in with no strategy and thinking you'll be able to answer every question from the get-go. You'll probably get quite disheartened, and that's because you just haven't mastered the technique yet. So start easy and build your way up. So now that you've figured out how to approach the UCAT, when do you actually start preparing for it? Don't start too early or leave things too late. When you start preparing for it is actually a very personal question. It depends on a lot of personal factors. So what I would recommend is probably doing about a month's worth of practice for the maximum preparation without feeling like you're going to burn out. Quite a few people I know also did roughly a month, but you may also choose to do 2 weeks of more intense preparation, or you might want to spend a few months on it. It's absolutely fine. So decide when you want to do the exam. For this year, 2020, they've recommended to do it as early as possible in the cycle. Then figure out how long you have till the exam, and then you can work out when to start preparing. And remember to factor in any commitments that you have between now and the exam that will affect your preparation time. And something else that might also help you to prepare is having a UCAT revision timetable. So I actually like to prepare quite a simple table in a Word document. I will make sure I have a day for each of the days I have leading up to the exam, and then sort of decide how I want to split up my time between each of the sections of the UCAT and write those in. I would also recommend actually sitting the exam fairly early in the cycle. This is because it is a very busy time for applicants. You've got your personal statement, you've got to sort out your UCAT application, and you're revising for A-levels, so you want to be able to manage all of those things. Moving on to my next tip, how do you actually start preparing for the UCAT? So this will involve getting your hands on as many resources as you can. Because the UCAT is all about practice and repetition and doing questions over and over again, the more you're exposed to different types of questions and amounts of questions, the better you'll get. There are now so many great free resources and paid resources, so many more than when I did it in 2016. So have a look around, see what works for you, what sort of format you like. There's blog posts, question banks, YouTube videos, all sorts out there. So for full transparency, I used the free UCAT practice tests on their website. I used the Medify question banks. I used the 1250 UK CAT question book. And I also did go on a Kaplan course. If you want to see a video about me reviewing these resources and just generally telling you more about where to practice UCAT questions, then let me know. And before we move on to my next tip, I was actually having a look at my channel analytics, and a whopping 55% of you who watched my last video are not subscribed. So if you like this video and you want more dental school and UCAT videos, please do make sure to subscribe to my channel, it really helps me out. So on to my fourth tip. This next tip is probably the most obvious but the most important, and it is to practice, practice, practice. The UCAT is all about exposing yourself to as many questions as you can and doing as many questions as you can every day. And with most things, the more you practice, the better you get at that thing. You don't need to be doing hours and hours of practice every day. If you do little and often every day, that's going to contribute a huge amount of practice, and you'll really notice the difference as well. Make sure that if you do get your hands on all of these resources that I've spoken about, that you actually use them and you work through them, because especially with Medify, there's so many questions in their question bank. It would be really hard to get through them all. And as you are practicing over time, my next tip is to practice under timed conditions. The UCAT is a 2-hour exam, which seems like a long time, but it really isn't. There's a lot of questions to answer in each of the sections, and you will be pushed for time. So to improve on your timing, when you are doing questions, you need to do these under timed conditions. This is one of the main challenges of the UCAT, and it's the reason that you can lose marks if you're not fast enough and you're not sort of strategic with how you're going about it. So you can use timed resources like the UCAT practice tests, the Medify question bank is timed, and if you are using a book, you'd use a timer on your phone to do it under timed conditions. And every time you do a section, see if you've got a little bit faster each time and see if you're improving every time, and that should really help. So as part of the process of getting faster for the UCAT, my next 2 tips will help you do that. The first is learning how to triage or flag questions effectively. What this means is having a go at a question, realizing it's too difficult for you to do in a quick amount of time, flagging it with your keyboard, and then moving on. And at the end, if you have enough time, you can come back to that question. I feel like this is a really important skill to learn, especially in the UCAT where timing is so tight. I really struggle to often let go of those questions that I knew I couldn't do in the time it needed. And it can really end up saving you precious seconds for some of the easier questions in the exam. In the UCAT, all questions carry the same marks. So whether that's a really easy question or a really hard question, they are worth the same. So if you learn to recognise those questions that are a little bit harder, you can let those go and make sure you're picking up all of the marks on the easy ones. So what sort of things should you triage or flag? Triage long passages in verbal reasoning, difficult patterns in abstract reasoning, or complex calculations that might need 3 or more calculations to work out in quantitative reasoning as well. The second thing that can speed up your time is learning keyboard shortcuts and practicing with a full-size keyboard and mouse. So the keyboard shortcuts I will put up on the screen here. These are vital in saving those precious seconds, especially if you have questions that you want to go back to. It allows you to quickly flick between questions, go forward, go back, flag a question, so really do make sure to learn these shortcuts. So using a full-size keyboard and a mouse will really help because that's what you'll be doing the exam on at a test centre. On a full-size keyboard you have the numbers at the far right-hand side. This will be really useful when you use the on-screen calculator for the quantitative reasoning section. If you don't have a desktop with a mouse and a full-size keyboard at home, you could go to your school, your library, college, and see if you can practice there. I actually didn't do this myself, I just used my laptop at home, and I do sort of wish I'd practiced on a full-size keyboard and a mouse because I think it would have really helped. So my next tip, and I think this is number 8, is read the question first. This is especially important in the verbal reasoning section because often you can get long and complicated passages, and if you look at the question first and identify keywords in the question, you can scan the passages and find the information a lot quicker. Reading the question first is also really helpful for the quantitative reasoning section. Sometimes there's way more information than you need in graphs and charts and things. In abstract reasoning as well, for example, look at the shape that they're asking you to identify the pattern for, and then have a look at the A and the B sections of the patterns and see where it fits. My next tip is to learn why you're making a mistake so you don't keep making that mistake again and again. So in the quantitative reasoning section, for example, if you keep getting the same question wrong over and over again, try and figure out why. Is it the formula you're getting wrong? Is it the calculation? Is it something you're just not quite understanding? And although this might seem a bit frustrating at the time and you want to get on with doing as many questions as possible, it will save time in the end because you will have corrected something that you're continuously getting wrong. And before the big day, before the day of the exam, make sure to get lots of rest and arrive early to your exam. Arrive 15 minutes early so you can get familiar with the place, you can read any instructions they give you, and you can sign anything as well. And after the exam, there is a little bit of good news. You actually do get your results immediately, which is really nice to sort of be put out of your misery. So on the 1st of June this year, UCAT has actually made an announcement about how testing will be done in 2020. I've left the key points of this announcement in the description box down below, so please do have a read of that. So thank you so much to anyone that is still watching. I did promise that I would share my UCAT score at the end, so here it is. I got a 740 average and a band 1 in the situational judgment. So yeah, as you can see, I did really peak in that math section with an 890. I did sort of predict I would do a little bit better in the maths because of having done it at GCSE and A-level, but I do want to make a video on how I specifically scored 890 in that section, so do give my channel a subscribe if you want to see that. And of course, I will make videos on all the other sections as well because I did pick up a few tips and tricks along the way when I did my UCAT. So give this video a like if it's helped you in any way, and I wish everyone the best of luck for their exam this year. Let me know in the comments down below if you are doing the UCAT this year, and don't stress over it too much. Remember to have that downtime, remember to chill. So thanks so much for watching, like this video and subscribe to my channel, and there's lots of UCAT videos coming very soon, and I will see you all again next time. Bye!